Elias stares out at the city lights. Another Friday night alone. He's swiped, he's dated, he's even felt those exhilarating sparks that promised something. But inevitably, they fizzle out, leaving behind a familiar ache, a question that haunts his quieter moments. Why does love always seem to slip through my fingers? He's read the articles, watched the movies, even tried the 5 steps to a perfect relationship. Yet, genuine, lasting connection feels like a mythical creature, always rumored, rarely seen. Does Elias's quiet despair resonate with something deep within you? Are you tired of the cycle of hope and disappointment? The endless search for the one who will magically complete you, only to find that even when you think you found them, the loneliness somehow, eventually, returns. What if the way we've all been taught to think about love is fundamentally flawed? Today, we're not offering another quick fix or a new dating strategy. We're diving deep into the profound and often forgotten wisdom of Erich Fromm, a thinker who dared to suggest that love is not something you passively find, but an art you actively cultivate, an art that, like any other, requires knowledge, effort, and dedicated practice. Fromm, in his seminal work, The Art of Loving, strips away the romanticized illusions that often lead us astray. He argues that our modern pursuit of love is riddled with misconceptions, leaving us feeling more isolated than ever. But he also offers a powerful, transformative alternative, a path to understanding and mastering the very faculty of loving. This video will explore Fromm's radical diagnosis of why you might be failing at love. We'll uncover his core insights into what true, mature love actually entails. And most importantly, we'll begin to equip you with the tools of thought and the gentle prompts for self-reflection needed to start transforming your own capacity for deep, meaningful, and lasting connection. This isn't just about understanding love. It's about learning how to love. If you're ready to stop just wishing for love and start cultivating it, if you're prepared to look beyond the superficial and engage with the profound art of human connection, then make sure you subscribe to MindMirror. Let's embark on this journey to understand ourselves and the deepest of human needs together. Remember Elias and his seemingly endless quest for a love that lasts. Fromm would suggest that Elias, like so many of us, might be caught in a fundamental misunderstanding from the very start. Have you ever found yourself obsessing over how to be more attractive, more charming, more lovable? Do you spend more energy trying to win someone's affection, to be the object of their desire, than on developing your own capacity to give love, to actively engage in the art of loving itself? Fromm's first startling assertion is this: most people see the problem of love primarily as that of being loved, rather than that of loving, of one's capacity to love. Think about that. It's a subtle but profound shift. We believe love is simple, but finding the right object to love, or to be loved by, is difficult. So, men strive for success, power, and wealth, believing these will make them lovable. Women, traditionally, focused on cultivating physical attractiveness. Imagine Sophia. She spends hours perfecting her appearance, curating her social media to project an image of effortless charm and desirability. Her primary concern is, how can I make them love me? Fromm would say, Sophia is focusing on being a lovable package, a desirable commodity on the personality market. This marketing orientation, as Fromm calls it, reduces human beings to commodities. We exchange our personality packages and hope for a fair bargain. Love becomes a transaction, not a deep, resonant connection. The second misconception Fromm highlights is that the problem of love is seen as the problem of an object, not a faculty. We think loving is easy. Finding the right person is hard. Camus compared this to a man who wants to paint, but instead of learning the art, claims he just has to wait for the right object, and then he will paint beautifully. It's a recipe for perpetual waiting and inevitable disappointment. Finally, Fromm points to the confusion between the initial explosive experience of falling in love, that sudden collapse of the barriers between two strangers, and the permanent state of standing in love. That initial infatuation, while exhilarating, is often mistaken for deep love, but it is, by its nature, transitory. As intimacy grows, the miracle fades, and if the capacity to love isn't there, boredom and disappointment set in. So, what does this mean for you? It means taking a brutally honest look at your own approach to love. When you think about your relationships, past or present, where has your primary energy been focused? Are you more concerned with what you get from a relationship, validation, security, an escape from loneliness, or with what you actively give and cultivate? It's a challenging question, isn't it? Here's a small prompt for self-reflection for one day. Consciously shift your focus. Instead of wondering if someone likes you or if you are being understood, try to focus entirely on understanding them, on actively giving your attention, your empathy. Observe what changes both in them and in you. Imagine Elias on yet another date. Previously, his mind would be racing. Does she find me witty? Am I saying the right things? Does she see a future with me? But armed with Fromm's insight, he tries something different. He focuses on Clara. He listens, truly listens, to her stories, her dreams, her fears. He's not performing, he's present. He's not trying to be loved. He's attempting, perhaps clumsily at first, the activity of loving, of giving his attention, his understanding. And a strange thing happens. The interaction feels less like a high-stakes audition and more like a genuine human connection. The pressure eases. A radical thought, isn't it, that the very foundation of our pursuit of love might be misplaced? Fromm challenges us to shift from a passive desire to be loved to an active engagement in the art of loving itself. But what does this art truly consist of? If love isn't just a magical feeling that strikes us like lightning or an object we find, then what is it if it's an art, an activity? What are its essential components? You might feel that defining love so clinically robs it of its romance, its mystery. But Fromm argues the opposite. By understanding the active elements of love, we don't diminish it. We empower ourselves to cultivate it more deeply, more consistently, beyond the crucial element of giving, which Fromm sees as an expression of potency, not sacrifice. He identifies 4 basic elements common to all forms of genuine love: care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. Care is the active concern for the life and growth of that which we love. It's not just a sentiment, it's action. If you say you love flowers but forget to water them, Fromm notes, we wouldn't believe your love. This active concern is paramount. Responsibility, in its true sense, is not a duty imposed from outside, but an entirely voluntary act, our ability to respond to the needs, expressed or unexpressed, of another human being. It's recognizing that their life, their well-being, is not just their business, but, in a profound sense, ours too. Respect, from respicere, galas, to look at, is the ability to see a person as they are, to be aware of their unique individuality. It means wanting the loved person to grow and unfold for their own sake, in their own ways. not as an object for our use or to fulfill our needs. Respect exists only on the basis of freedom and knowledge. Care and responsibility would be blind if not guided by knowledge. This isn't superficial knowledge, but a deep penetration to the core of the other person, transcending our own self-concern to see them in their own terms, to understand their anxieties, their loneliness, their deeper motivations. These four elements are not separate entities, but a syndrome of attitudes found in the mature, productive person. They are mutually interdependent. You cannot truly care without responsibility. You cannot respect without knowledge. Fromm emphasizes that love is an active power in man, a power that breaks through the walls separating us from others. It allows us to overcome our separateness, yet permits us to be ourselves, to retain our integrity. In love, the paradox occurs that two beings become one and yet remain two. This active, giving nature of love is its highest expression. Giving, Fromm clarifies, is more joyous than receiving, not because it is a deprivation, but because in the act of giving lies the expression of my aliveness. When you give of your joy, your interest, your understanding, your sadness, you enrich the other, and in doing so, you enhance your own sense of vitality. So, how can you begin to practice these elements in your daily life? Start by observing your current relationships. When you interact with someone you care about, are these four elements present? Care. Are you actively concerned for their growth, not just their comfort responsibility? Are you truly responding to their needs, even the unspoken ones? Or are you imposing your own agenda? Respect. Do you see them as they truly are and support their unique path, even if it's different from what you might wish for them? Knowledge. Are you striving to understand them deeply, beyond superficial appearances and your own projections? A gentle prompt for practice. Choose one relationship. For the next week, consciously try to practice one of these elements more intentionally. For example, focus on truly listening to understand knowledge, or on actively supporting their individual goals. Respect. Notice the shift. Let's return to Sophia. Before, her focus was on making Marcus desire her. Now, armed with Fromm's insights, she starts to think differently. Before their next meeting, she doesn't just plan her outfit, she thinks about Marcus. What are his struggles at work she's heard him mention? What are his quiet passions he rarely talks about during their conversation? She practices knowledge by asking thoughtful questions, not to fill silence, but to genuinely understand his perspective. She practices respect by not trying to change his views, even if they differ from hers. She shows care by remembering a small detail he mentioned earlier and asking about it. It's not a grand, dramatic gesture, but these small, active expressions of care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge begin to build a different kind of connection. It's less about a spark and more about the slow, steady burn of a deeply tended fire. Understanding love as an art and recognizing that this art begins with a healthy love for oneself. These are profound shifts, but Fromm also warns us that the very society we live in can make practicing this art incredibly challenging. Love your neighbor as yourself. A familiar saying, isn't it yet? How many of us truly understand the second part of that commandment? How many of you struggle with the idea of self-love, fearing it's just a synonym for selfishness, for narcissism? We're often taught that to be good is to be selfless, to put others first, always. But what if this very idea, Fromm suggests, is a dangerous misunderstanding that cripples our ability to love at all? Fromm's revolutionary insight here is that love, in principle, is indivisible. If an individual is able to love productively, he loves himself too. If he can love only others, he cannot love at all. He argues that selfishness and self-love, far from being identical, are actually opposites. The selfish person, Fromm explains, does not love themselves too much, but too little. In fact, they often hate themselves. Their outward focus on getting things for themselves is a desperate and ultimately futile attempt to compensate for a fundamental lack of inner fondness and care for their real self. Consider the unselfish mother Fromm describes, who consciously believes she lives only for her children, yet whose children often grow up anxious, tense, and subtly sensing their mother's hidden hostility towards life. Her unselfishness, Fromm suggests, is often a symptom of her own inability to love, including herself. Genuine self-love, for Fromm, is not narcissistic absorption. It is rooted in the same attitudes we extend to others in mature love, care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. For oneself, it is the affirmation of one's own life, happiness, growth, and freedom. This capacity to love oneself, to value one's own integrity and uniqueness, is the very foundation upon which love for others can be built. How can you truly respect another if you don't respect yourself? How can you truly know another if you are a stranger to your own inner world? The idea expressed in the biblical "love thy neighbor as thyself" implies that respect for one's own integrity and uniqueness, love for and understanding of one's own self, cannot be separated from respect and love and understanding for another individual. This is a profoundly liberating insight for many of us who have been conditioned to see self-care as selfish. It means that nurturing your own well-being, understanding your own needs, respecting your own boundaries is not an act of narcissism, but an essential prerequisite for genuinely loving others. Are you often more critical and demanding of yourself than you would ever be of a friend? Do you neglect your own needs in the name of serving others, only to end up feeling resentful or depleted? A gentle prompt for practice. Think of someone you love deeply. How do you show them care and respect? Now, for 1 week, try to extend just one of those same gestures of care and respect to yourself. It might be setting aside time for an activity that nourishes your soul, or speaking to yourself with more kindness and understanding when you make a mistake. Imagine Sophia, after receiving critical feedback on a project. The old Sophia might have spiraled into self-blame, thinking, "I'm a failure." But the Sophia who is learning Fromm's art of loving practices, self-respect, she acknowledges the feedback, considers what she can learn, but also reminds herself of her inherent worth, independent of this single event. Because she has filled her own cup with a degree of self-acceptance, she is then more genuinely available to offer authentic support to Marcus when he faces a challenge, without her own insecurities clouding the interaction. Her capacity to love him expands as her love for herself grows. Understanding love as an art and recognizing that this art begins with a healthy love for oneself. These are profound shifts. But Fromm also warns us that the very society we live in can make practicing this art incredibly challenging. Let's be honest. We live in a world that often seems to actively work against the deep, patient, and disciplined practice of loving that Fromm describes. A world of instant gratification, superficial connections, and a relentless pressure to consume and conform. Have you ever felt that your attempts at deeper connection at authentic self-expression are swimming against a powerful cultural tide. Do you sometimes wonder if genuine, mature love is even possible in today's world? Fromm doesn't shy away from this critique. He directly addresses love and its disintegration in contemporary Western society. But his aim isn't to leave us in despair. Instead, he outlines the essential conditions for practicing any art, including the art of loving discipline, concentration, patience, and a supreme concern with the mastery of the art. Discipline, not as a rigid, joyless rule imposed from outside, but as an expression of one's own will, a behavior one would miss if one stopped practicing it. It's about consistent, intentional effort, concentration, the ability to be fully present in the here and now, to listen truly, to be alone with oneself without needing constant distraction. Fromm notes, paradoxically, the ability to be alone is the condition for the ability to love. Patience. Understanding that mastery of any art, especially love, takes time and that quick results are an illusion. Supreme concern. The art of loving must be of ultimate importance, not a secondary pursuit after success, prestige, or money. And underpinning all of this, Fromm argues, is faith, not irrational belief, but rational faith, a conviction rooted in one's own experience of thought and feeling, a faith in oneself, in others, and in the potentialities of mankind. This faith requires courage, the ability to take risks, to accept pain and disappointment. To love means to commit oneself without guarantee. Fromm critiques modern society's marketing orientation, where even human qualities become commodities, and relationships are often based on a fair exchange of personality packages rather than genuine connection. This societal structure, he argues, is inherently antithetical to mature love. To practice love in such a society requires a conscious act of nonconformity, a rebellion against the prevailing spirit of a production-centered, commodity-greedy society. It requires the courage to prioritize human connection and inner growth over external validation and material success. This isn't about retreating from the world, but about transforming one's engagement with it. It means bringing the principles of care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge, not just to our intimate relationships, but to all our interactions with colleagues, with strangers, with society as a whole. This is perhaps Fromm's most challenging, yet most empowering message for you. It means that the art of loving is not just a personal endeavor. It is also a social and even a spiritual one. It requires you to become more conscious, more intentional, more disciplined in all areas of your life. A practical starting point, Fromm suggests simple exercises for concentration, like sitting still and being alone with oneself without distraction for even 20 minutes a day, or learning to listen truly to another person, or for patience, consciously resisting the urge for quick fixes or instant results in one area of your life. These small acts of discipline, concentration, and patience, Fromm believes, are the foundational practices for developing the larger capacity to love. Are you willing to make loving an art of supreme concern in your life? Imagine Elias, who used to seek constant distraction from his loneliness. He now dedicates a small part of his day to quiet reflection. As Fromm suggests, he starts to notice his own thoughts and feelings more clearly, becoming more sensitive to himself. This, in turn, helps him to be more genuinely present and less reactive in his interactions with Sophia. Sophia, who once focused on being a lovable package, now finds herself practicing patience, not just with Marcus, but with herself. She starts to understand that deep connection isn't about instant sparks, but about the sustained effort of understanding, respecting, and caring for another and for herself, imperfections and all. Their journey isn't magically perfect, but it's becoming more real, more grounded in the active art of loving. Erich Fromm, in The Art of Loving, shatters our romantic illusions and presents us with a profound, challenging, yet ultimately hopeful truth. Love is not a feeling we passively stumble upon, but an art we must actively learn and courageously practice. It demands that we shift our focus from being loved to the active capacity of loving. It requires us to cultivate care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge, not just for others, but fundamentally for ourselves. And it calls us to practice discipline, concentration, patience, and to hold love as a supreme concern, even in a world that often devalues these very qualities. The journey to master this art is lifelong. There are no shortcuts, but by embracing love as an active power, as the most profound expression of our aliveness, we find not only the answer to our deepest human need, to overcome separateness, but the path to a truly meaningful, productive, and deeply connected existence. The art of loving is the art of living fully. Erich Fromm's wisdom is not just to be admired, it's to be lived. What was the most aha moment for you in understanding love as an art? Which of the four elements, care, responsibility, respect, or knowledge, do you feel you need to cultivate more in your own life? And how might you begin? Share your insights, your personal challenges in practicing love, and any small steps you plan to take in the comments below. Your journey enriches us all. And if you're committed to transforming your understanding and practice of love, ensure you subscribe to MindMirror for more explorations that search the depths of human experience. Thank you for joining us in exploring this profound art. May your journey in loving be filled with courage, consciousness, and ever-deepening connection. The ideas explored in this video are for philosophical and psychological exploration and are not intended as professional advice. Viewers are encouraged to engage in their own critical thinking and further research, and to consult with qualified professionals for personal concerns.